I was born into a world already at war. A world where men carved their names into history with steel, or vanished without a trace. My name is Miyamoto Musashi, though that was not the name I first carried. Some knew me as Shinmen Benosuke. Others would later call me Miyamoto Musashi. Names change, titles fade, but the path I walked, that remained constant. I was born around 1584 in Harima Province. My father, Shinmen Munisai, was a respected martial artist, a man of discipline, precision, and reputation. He was the kind of man others feared disappointing. I disappointed him often. Our relationship was not one of warmth. It was friction. Steel against steel. He taught me technique, yes, but more than that, he taught me what it meant to stand alone, whether he intended to or not. Some say I was wild as a child, unruly, difficult. That is a gentle way of putting it. I did not believe in waiting for permission. At 13 years old, I fought my first duel. His name was Arima Kihei, a grown man, trained in the sword, confident enough to publicly challenge anyone who dared face him. I was a boy, barely a shadow of the warrior I would become, but I stepped forward anyway. There were no grand speeches, no elegant stances. When the moment came, I rushed him. I struck him down, and when he fell, I did not stop. I beat him until there was no doubt left in the outcome. That day, I learned something most men spend their lives avoiding. Hesitation is death. By the time I was 16, I had already left whatever remained of a home behind me. No master, no lord, no safety. I became a ronin, one of many, yet unlike most. I did not wander in search of purpose. I wandered in search of opposition. Then came war. In the year 1600, I found myself amidst one of the greatest conflicts Japan had ever seen, the Battle of Sekigahara. Armies clashed, loyalties shattered. The fate of the nation balanced on the edge of blades. I fought, and I lost. I was on the losing side. Men around me died. Banners fell. Dreams ended in mud and blood. But I survived. Not by chance. I survived because I refused to die. After that, I turned fully to the path I understood best. The duel. One opponent became 2. 2 became 10. 10 became dozens. More than 60 duels. And I did not lose. But understand this clearly. I was not a noble duelist. I was not concerned with appearances or the fragile pride of my enemies. I arrived late to unsettle them. I fought with wooden swords when they expected steel. I studied not just their technique, but their spirit, fear, arrogance, rhythm, timing. These were the true battlegrounds. And then, Kyoto, the Yoshioka School, a name respected across the land, a lineage of warriors who believed themselves untouchable. I challenged them. First, I faced their master, Yoshioka Seijudo. I defeated him. Then his brother, Yoshioka Denshichiro. I defeated him as well. Honor demanded they respond, so they set a trap. They sent a child, Yoshioka Matashichiro, as bait, surrounded by hidden warriors meant to strike me down all at once. They expected me to arrive late. This time, I arrived early. I hid. I watched. I waited. And when the moment came, I moved first. The ambush failed. The child fell. And with him, The Yoshioka name faded into silence. Victory is not always clean, but it is always final. Still, there was one man whose name echoed louder than the rest. Sasaki Kojiro, a master of elegance. His blade was long, his movements precise, his reputation flawless. Where I was rough, he was refined. Where I was unpredictable, he was disciplined. We were opposites, which meant we were inevitable. We agreed to meet during the Ganryu Island duel. I arrived late. Of course I did. But this time, it was more than strategy. It was theater. On the boat, I carved a weapon from an oar, a crude wooden sword, longer than usual. Not because I lacked steel, but because I wanted to break him before we even crossed blades. When I stepped onto the shore, the sun was behind me. His patience had already begun to crack. He threw away his scabbard, a mistake. He charged. His strike was fast, faster than most men could even perceive. But speed alone does not decide a battle. Timing does. I moved once. My wooden blade struck his skull with decisive force. And just like that, Sasaki Kojiro fell. No second strike, no drawn-out exchange, just silence. People would say that was my greatest victory. They were wrong, because the greatest battle comes after the sword is no longer needed.
After years of killing, something began to change within me. I started to see the sword not as an end, but as a tool, a path. I turned to other disciplines, painting, calligraphy, sculpture. I studied form, balance, emptiness. I sought to understand not just how to defeat others, but how to understand myself. From this, I developed my style, Niten Ichi Ryu. 2 swords, 1 mind. The long and the short blade used together, not opposing forces, but harmonized ones. Just as life itself is a balance of contradictions, strength and softness, action and stillness, victory and loss. I would later serve under powerful lords, including during the siege of Osaka. War returned, but I was no longer the same man who had rushed headfirst into his first duel. I had learned patience. I had learned perspective. And eventually, I chose solitude. I withdrew from the world and settled in a cave known as Reigando Cave. There, with time finally catching up to me, I began to write. Not stories, not boasts, but truths. The result was the Book of 5 Rings. Earth, water, fire, wind, void. These were not just elements, but ways of understanding the world, ways of thinking, ways of acting without confusion. I wrote not as an undefeated swordsman, but as a man who had spent his life learning what it meant to truly see. By 1645, my body had begun to fail, but my mind remained sharp. I faced death the same way I faced every duel, without hesitation, without fear, because by then, I understood something deeper than victory. The sword was never the goal. It was only the beginning. What matters is not how many you defeat, but whether you master yourself. That is the only battle that follows you to the very end, and that is the path I leave behind. You've seen the battles, the victories, the legends, but none of that matters if you cannot master yourself. The greatest enemy you will ever face is the one within. My name is Miyamoto Musashi. Walk the path or be left behind. Subscribe or be forgotten.